Hello friends, welcome to Global Tech Learn. In this video, we will try to decode the Power BI direct query connection. We will see what is the direct query functionality in Power BI, how to use this, and how the query engine works with the direct query. Thereafter, we will see what are the most common issues we face while using direct query connection. And after that, we will go through some steps to find the root cause for these issues. And then finally, we will see some best practices that we can follow while using the direct query connection. Before we start with today's agenda, I would recommend you to go through our previous video where we have covered import, direct and live connection in Power BI. There we have covered what is each connection type, how to use that, what are the advantages and limitation with each connection type, and what are the most important factors that needs to be considered while making a decision between import connection, direct query connection or the live connection. And we have also provided some recommendations while working these connection type. You can find the video link in the description below. Now let's start with what is direct query. Direct query is the connection type in Power BI where Power BI connects to source database and it generates the native query that works with the source database and then send this native query to the source database while user interact with the report. Now let's see how we can connect to the data source using direct query connection from Power BI. So in Power BI we can go to get data, then from more let's select SQL Server database, connect, and here you can see we have two options, import and direct query. So let me select direct query for now and we can provide the server and database name and let's hit the OK. Now here we have list of the tables from the given database. So for now let me select couple of tables from the database. So here I have choose one fact table and couple of dimension tables and let me click on load. Now we have successfully created a direct query connection from Power BI to the source Microsoft SQL Server database. Now let's go to transform query editor to see the tables in the model. So here we can see we have four tables, fact, sales, dim customer, geography and product table over here. And as of now we don't have any kind of transformation on any of these tables. Now let's go back to the Power BI model view and see what are the tables we have. So let's see the properties of the table. So here in the properties under advanced section we can see the table storage mode is direct query for all the tables. Now let's create relationship between these tables. Here in fact sales we have customer ID that we can create relationship with customer key in the dim customer table. Then in fact sales we have product ID that can go towards the dim product table. And for now let's keep dim geography table on hold and we will not create any relationship for this table. And now let's go back to the report view mode and we will try to build report on top of this direct query connection tables. So let's add one visual and let's select visual type as a matrix, and in data we can add customer name from customer table, and let's add sold quantity from fact table. Now here we have one basic table with customer and sold quantity. Now we have one visual on top of the direct query tables. Now let's see how the query engine works in Power BI. So for that, let me enable the performance analyzer, and here in performance analyzer pane you can see we have start recording. From there we can click on start recording, and after that we can click the refresh visual. So on the left side you can see in the matrix table the data has been refreshed, and under performance analyzer pane we have some details. So basically in performance analyzer it says what is the duration for query execution, and under that we have various types of queries that has been generated by Power BI query engine. So let me copy all the queries from here and put this in a SQL Server Management Studio. So here in SQL Server Management Studio you can see the Power BI has generated one DAX query, and here we have DAX query, and thereafter Power BI has given the direct query. So let me remove the DAX query for now, and let's focus on the direct query. So for direct query we can see there is a long query generated by Power BI, and this has been generated based on the Power BI query engine. Now let me stop this performance analyzer for now. So far we have understood how to connect to the Power BI direct query connection, how to connect to the SQL Server using direct query connection, and how the query engine works with the direct query connection, and how to get the underlying query that has been sent to the source database. Now let's discuss what are the common issues that usually we face while working with the direct query connection type. The most common issue with the direct query connection type is long running queries. Usually whenever we have huge database and we want to achieve Power BI report on top of the huge database, then the first choice would be the direct query only. But with this approach, it is natural that the query sent on the source database will take long time because of the database size. Also, these long-running queries can be result into the timeout, and many times this results into the connection interrupted. Now let's move on to the how we can find the root cause for this issue. We can find the root cause using various ways. The first way is the performance analyzer. So let's see how to use the performance analyzer. So here in Power BI, let me enable performance analyzer once again, and we can start the recording, and let's refresh the visuals once again. Now here our visuals has been refreshed and we have got the duration, and under that we have query. Let's paste this query here again and analyze what query Power BI has generated. So let me remove the DAX query for now and check what is the direct query we are getting. So here we have one direct query over here that ends over here at the line number 36. Then from line 39 we have another query that ends at the line number 70. So from this we can understand Power BI query engine has generated two queries for one visual refresh. This is because of the data model that we have defined over here. So here in this data model, we have fact sales that has a relationship with the dim customer and product table. And if I go back to the report view and look at the fields, we have customer name that is coming from dim customer table. Then we have sold quantity that is coming from fact sales. Go back to the both the generated queries, and here we can see the first query is generated for the fact sales table, and that has been joined with customer table, and their filter has been applied Alexander on the customer name. Now let's go to the next query, and here we can see in the next query aggregate function has been applied from the subquery, and under subquery we have all the columns from fact table, and then it is again joined with the customer table, and there we have all the fields from the customer table, and the join key between fact sales and the team customer table is the customer ID and customer key. So now here we have got the source query, and we understood that for one visual, the Power BI has generated two queries based on the tables data presented in the visual. Now, this is the one way to get the query from the performance from the Power BI, and this is the easiest way. But let me show you the other way that usually I do prefer. So for that, I have started SQL Server Trace. So here I have already started the session and I have cleared the output. Now we have blank session here. So what this tool will do, it will keep monitor the source database, and it will return all the queries along with the execution time for each query over here. So let me go back to Power BI and refresh these visuals, and let's go back to the SQL trace. Here you can see the Power BI has sent two queries, and both the queries has executed successfully, and this is their execution time. From here also we can grab the query and test it in the database. The another way to get the source query generated by the query engine is the trace file that Power BI generates. For that we have to go to the user profiles app data folder. So let me go to that path, and here you can see under the app data folder under Microsoft Power BI desktop we have analysis services workspace. Under that we have the session ID, and under that session under data we have the file called FlightRecorderCurrent.trc, that is trace file. Let's try to open this file in SQL Server Profiler. So let me click and let's try to open this file. And here you can see we have all the list of the queries that has been sent from the Power BI desktop to the database. So under the text data field, we can see all the queries that has been sent by Power BI desktop to the source databases. So far we have seen three different ways to get the source database query, and we can analyze a query in the source database to find the root cause, query performance or timeout issue. If query works fine, or query issue has been and or query performance has been resolved, but still if we are getting the connection timeout issue or query is taking long to return the result, then possible the other issue could be the gateway. So the gateway is the tool that we configured in the network where database resides. The gateway is the communication gateway between the database and the Power BI services. So there are the possibilities when Power BI services sends query to the source database, but there is a high traffic on the data gateway, and that creates an issue within the network that causing the issue in the communication between Power BI desktop and the database. So far we have covered what is the direct query in Power BI, how we can use it, and what are the common issues with the direct query in Power BI, and how to find the root cause for these issues in Power BI. Now let's move on to the solutions. What are the steps that we can follow resolve these issues with the direct query in Power BI? We have grouped solutions in two categories. One is solution that we can implement on the source database side, and the other that we can take care from Power BI. So let's discuss with source database related solution first. In source database, the first step we can do is to tune the query by improving performance of the query in source database itself. For that, we can identify the objects which are involved in the query from query generated by Power BI engine, and then we can try to improve the performance of these objects within the source database. For that, we can create indexes in the source database to improve performance of the table, or we can set up the missing relationships between these objects. And there are so many things that can be taken care in the source database. Now let's discuss about the next solution, that is database workload. A database workload is the set of requests that have some common characteristics such as application, source of request, type of query, business priority, or the performance objectives. When we think of the database workload, that means what is the load is going on the database. For example, while Power BI is sending queries to the source database, and at the same time there are other applications that are sending requests to the database, and in this situation database is not able to serve all the requests at the same time. To fix this issue, we can think of various options, such as we can set the priorities of the business applications in the source database, and accordingly the database can serve multiple requests from the applications. The other measure can be taken care in the database is schedule applications in a way that there should not be conflict between multiple applications. Once all these applications are sending requests in a sequential manner, or these are not conflicting with each other, then database workload will be reduced and database will provide its optimum performance to the applications. The next item we have is fact table partitioning. For that, we can simply create a partitioning on the source database based on the period filter available in Power BI. The next solution is the session limit that also can be configured in the database. Usually the database applications create the sessions for the request sent by downstream application, and since the database are serving to the multiple applications, so each application have their own sessions, and that needs to be maintained by the database. In such situation, we can create a session limit on the database to avoid any application that consume lot of resources of the database and decrease the database performance. Now let's move on to the solution that we can do in Power BI. Now let's discuss about the filtering fact tables in Power BI. Filtering fact table is the same as what we discussed the solutions for the database side, where the data divided into multiple segments called partitions, and it is easier to manage and query data from the databases. By dividing large table into the smaller partitions, this improves query performance and control cost by reducing the number of bytes read by a query in a database. So now in this situation, if we know there are partitions on the source database side, in that case, from Power BI, we can query only latest data or the chunk of the data where business users are interested. This will improve the performance of the queries. For that, let's go back to Power BI and let's connect to SQL Server once again. And here, this time, instead of going to the all the list of objects from the SQL Server and choose the tables, we will provide the query to pull data from the source database. And here in query, we can add the filter to pull only the partition data. So for example, here, let's try to pull the latest data from fact sales table. For that, we can provide select star from fact sales, where now let's say users are interested in current year data only. In that case, we can apply a filter on the date is equals to current date. Now with this where condition, Power BI engine will generate the query and send it to the source database. By that time, it will filter the date with the latest year, and the database will understand that it has to return only the latest year data. So it will look for this data only in the latest partition. Also, there could be a requirement from the business where business is looking for historical data as well. In that case, we can think of the creating a two table instead of one table. The one table for the latest partition and other query all the historical partitions. In that case, here in this query, we can add a filter less than year of the date is less than year of the current date, and we can name this query as a historical data. And on the Power BI report side, we can create a chart with the latest data, and for the historical data, we can build a drill through or the different chart with different visual. And when user clicks on the latest information visual, then he will get quick result. But as soon as they deep dive into the historical data, it will take longer than the latest information. The next item we have is balance transformation. Balance transformation means instead of creating all the transformation in the Power BI, we can shift these to the source database. So here in Power BI query editor, usually we apply the transformation over here. For example, here we have sales date key. We want to convert this field as a date data type. So instead of converting it over here, we can do this in a source database itself by defining this conversion or transformation in query itself. For that, again, we can go back to the source database, and while creating a connection, instead of selecting the complete table under query option, we can add the conversion, select convert sales date as sales date, and all the rest of the fields from the table that we want for our reporting purpose from fact sales. So here, once we have the numeric date converted as a date data type, then we don't need to do this in Power BI. And since data is stored in the source database itself, the conversion will happen faster than the Power BI. Another thing that we can do in Power BI to improve the query performance is by tuning the data modeling over here. So here in Power BI under model tab, here we can see all the tables have direct relationship with the fact table. So we can see here dim customer has direct relationship with fact sales. Similarly, product table has direct relationship with fact sales. Now here for the geography table, so here we can create a relationship from dim customer to the dim geography. Now here you can see we have dim geography that is related to dim customer. Let me realign this. And then from dim customer, it has a relationship with the fact sales. So if we try to plot a visual with attributes from geography tables such as city or continent, along with the fact sales, in that case, the Power BI query engine will generate a query where all these three tables are involved. And there will be a subquery and it will cause the performance issue. To avoid this situation, always try to use direct relationship with the fact sales and avoid these bridge tables in the model. For that, while creating a query for the fact sales, we can directly join with the dim customer over there and pull the geo ID key over there itself in fact sales, and then we can join the fact sales with the dim geography directly. Now let's discuss about the optimize options available in Power BI. Recently, Power BI has added a couple of options to improve the performance of the report as well as the development of the report. So here under Optimize tab, here you can see we have menus like Pause Visual, Refresh Visual, Optimize Presets, and Apply or Slicer button. Let's discuss the Pause Visual first. So pause visual is very useful while we develop the reports. While we do development, with each event Power BI sends the query to the source database to refresh the data. So for that, let's go to the SQL trace again and clear the screen for now. And now come back to the Power BI and let's add one slicer over here. Now here we have slicer and let me add customer name over here. Now we have customer name slicer here, and let's go back to the SQL trace and see it has sent one query to the source database to get data for the slicer. So let me clear this log once again. And now let's try to apply any filter over here. So now as soon as we click on Douglas, it must have sent one query to the database. Let's check that. Yeah, here we can see it has sent one query to the database. Let me clear this session once again. And now this time, let me pause this visual from Optimize menu. And now let's try to apply the filter. And here you can see it has not sent any query to the database. So this is helpful while developing a reports, since if while we create a report there are a lot of interactions happen between the visuals, or so in that case sending query to the source database each time, especially when we have big data, it causes a lot of time to refresh and it will be time consuming development. So here now we have paused the visuals, and since it is not sending any query, so it is understood that the data is not getting refreshed over here. So let me remove the pause visuals. Now the data has been refreshed. Now let's discuss next item, that is query reduction. Query reduction is the option in Power BI where the Power BI will turn off cross highlighting and cross filtering and adds a apply button to the slicer. So by that means, let me click on the apply all slicer button. So here you can see we have apply all slicers. Let me drag it down there, and here you can see this button is disabled for now. So now with this button is very useful when we have multiple slicer on the screen. So let's say I have one more filter for products. Let me change the field in the outliner. And here when I apply any filter on the product table, you can see there is no refresh happened for other two visuals, that is customer name or the customer name slicer. Let me select one more product formal chair, and you can see there is no refresh happened for other visuals. By this means, while we are applying the apply all slicer button on the report, it will disable the interactions of the visuals and creating unnecessary lot of queries for each interaction in the Power BI that will send to the source database. So how this will work? For that, once we filter all the slicers, then we can just click on the apply all slicer and it will send all the queries in one go to the source database. So let me go back to the SQL trace and clear the cache. And now let's click on the apply all slicers. And here you can see it has sent all the queries in one go. So this will reduce the unnecessary queries on the database. If you want to learn all the other options on this optimize tab, especially the apply all slicer and what are the other query reduction and options are available in Power BI. For that, we have covered all these latest features introduced by Power BI in our Power BI updates playlist. I will provide you link in description below. I would recommend to go through that. The last solution we have is the fix the gateway. If there is issue within the gateway that is causing the connectivity between Power BI services and the source database, in that case we need to work with the network admin team to fix the network issue. And from the Power BI solution, the Power BI admin can check the gateway logs to understand what is causing issue in the gateway. For that, we can go to the gateway. Let me go to the gateway, and here we can see we have export logs. So from here we can retrieve the Power BI on-premise gateway logs, and then we can go through the logs to get the root cause. Or the other option is we can restart the gateway to clear all the sessions and overhead cache from the Power BI gateway. So this is all for the today's session. Know more about the database related query performance solution. In that case, we have a dedicated SQL Learning Fast Tracks playlist available on Global Tech Learn channel that you can follow. I will provide you the playlist link in the description window below. See you in the next video. Till then, take care.